Howdy folks, Marvin 4K here. I'm here with my buddy Kegan Pankratz, and we're here today to pit the Hammer 1210 against the Titan X 12.5. I was on the team that helped with the design of the Hammer and the Titan X and the LTE, and today we're going to put these kayaks through their paces, look at the differences between each of them, and see how they perform on the water against each other. Our plans with the Titan X design were to have a kayak that had incredible stability. It had to be able to mount motors from the factory, had to be easy wiring access, and lots of storage. Kegan's had this Titan X for about a year plus. How's it been for you?
It's been great. My battery lives in here for my graph, and all of the wiring comes back through in here where I can easily access it. I also like to keep my tools to make sure that I can work on the kayak at any time, all situated right up here.
The hatch on the Titan X was a big improvement over the old Titan hatches. It's raised and hinged, and there's additional drainage around the hatch to keep water from getting inside the kayak. The Titan X was the first native kayak to include these PowerLink E plates. They make wiring really simple all over the kayak, and if you need to change something or you make a mistake, you can easily replace this plate for just a few dollars. We've got one in the front, one in the stern, and one on each side. Also the first native kayak with a swivel seat. Kegan's upgraded this to the Tempest seat as well. The Titan X was built with motors in mind direct from the factory. Kegan's got this bow mount plate on here if you wanted to install a bow mount motor, and that E-plate makes it really easy to wire that motor. Or a stern mount motor. This was the first native kayak to include this bulkhead, which reinforced a stern-mounted motor, made it a little bit more sturdy. Kegan's got a Newport on here. You can do a Torpedo or other third parties. The Titan X is also the first native kayak to include internal rod holders, 2 on each side. This is the first native kayak that included a battery bay back here behind the seat. It's got a tray to hold the battery, or you can take this tray out, and without the tray, it'll fit a Group 27 size battery. The baseline for the Hammer design was the Slayer Max 12.5. That's where we started. We asked ourselves, what can we do to improve that kayak and make it better? And what can we incorporate that we've learned from the Titan X and from the LTE? And maybe more importantly, we asked, what's the niche that this kayak fills? What makes it different than the Titan X, and who's it going to appeal to? The Hammer's got the sharpest bow of any native kayak so far, and it quickly flares out to push water to the side. We've got even more PowerLink E-plates on the Hammer. Starting with this one up on the bow, in case you've got a bow-mounted motor. We've got a similar raised hatch here, which you can also install a plate inside here for mounting additional accessories. Similar setup to the Titan, and that there's a battery compartment here, but they've added an E-plate here and a volet strap here to hold your extra cable. You've got a bin in the front, which gives us access to the open deck, which is huge. There's a lot more volume in this kayak. And then there's another E-plate right here at the back of the hatch. We also increased the drainage even more than it was on the Titan X. These rotary latches, first time we did these was on the LTE. They're a big improvement over the old slide latches. One of the goals with the Hammer was to raise the deck to make it a really dry ride. You can see that the deck on this is much higher than the old Slayer Max or even the Titan X. What do you think about this new deck, Kegan?
You know, while I haven't had a lot of worry about my feet getting wet, I am very much excited to have a drier ride. During the winter times, I don't like my feet getting cold. It's too easy, so getting that water on the deck can make that tough, but I'm very excited for this.
You can also see that the drive cover is much more shallow. The only way to get the higher deck that we wanted was to redesign the Propel drive. And so now with the Hammer, we've got the X-Range Propel drive. The X-Range folds flat to get out of your way, or you can pull a pin over here and remove the drive, but leave the thwart bar behind. Much easier to stow away. Another change on the hammer is this big flat battery bay. You can see that it'll hold a Group 27 size battery in the tray with this beefed up tray. It's got a power link plate right here. I haven't quite installed my through hole on that, but I will. And if you've got a Newport Vessels low pro battery, that'll fit in this square. Another big improvement we made with the hammer is this new drive cover. It's got that rotary latch. Pull it out, and then we've got a little dry box storage here. So you can put your keys, your wallet, your phone. Safe and secure.
On the Titan X, we don't have that same drive cover. Here we have just a couple of bungees that allow you to lift it up and no actual storage.
One of the best angles to see the differences in the Titan X and the hammer is here from the stern. You'll notice that the Titan X is a lot wider in the rear than the Hammer 1210. Also, you'll notice these bulkheads. This is something new. The hammer has a much higher weight capacity than any other native kayak has. We go from 500-pound weight capacity to 650 pounds. That allowed us to create some more volume in the hull in certain places. The hull is much more sleek down here, which gives you better turning. But these two bulkheads on the sides will help prevent the kayak from kicking up when you're underway via motor. Now that we've talked about the Titan X and the brand new hammer, there's only one thing left to do. Get them out on the water and put them to the test.
You mean drag race, right?
Okay, for this first test, we're going to see which of these kayaks has a tighter turning radius. We're going to go towards the camera, and then we're going to both turn hard and see which of us comes back to the middle first. You ready, Kegan?
Let's do it.
Ready, set, go.
All right.
We're around 2.5 miles an hour. 3, 2, 1, turn.
Turning. Commentated for a second. Oh yeah, the hammer's way tighter. Way tighter.
About 3/4 of the way there.
Yeah.
With my first time out on the water with the hammer, one thing I wanted to test is how well it turns backwards. Titan X doesn't turn that great when you're going backwards. I want to see if it's any better on the hammer. Still a slow turn, but it's turning. Yeah, that's not bad.
From the appearance, it sure looks a whole lot better than the Titan X.
All right, now we're going to see which of these beats the other in a sprint with the pedal drives. We've got our motors up, and we've got our spring blade rudders down. We're going to race to the camera, and we'll keep track of our speed on our graph to let you know where we're at. Let me switch the camera angle, and we'll go. All right, Kegan, you ready?
Let's do it.
Here we go. Ready, set, go. Hammer's off, out of the chute.
Got the whole shot on.
Taking the lead. I'm up to 4.1, 4.3, 4.4, 4.5, 4.7, 4.8, 4.9, 5, 5, 5.2. And the hammer wins that one. Woo!
I think it comes out of the hole.
5.2.
Huh?
I got up to 5.2.
4.8 is all I got.
Okay, now we're going to do a speed test with our motors. I'm out here with Kegan. Say hey, Kegan.
Howdy.
You can see he's got his NK300 on the back of his Titan X, and I've got an NK300 on the back of my Hammer. We're going to race to the camera and see who gets there first. We'll have camera on our graphs as well to let you know how quick we're going. All right, I think we're ready to go. You ready, Kegan?
Let's do it.
Ready, set, go. All right, I'm at 100%. 6.8, 6.4, 6.6. We're pretty neck and neck here. Kegan's trailing a tiny bit behind me. 6.3, I'm cutting him off. 6.4. Holding steady around 6.4, 6.5. Here's the finish line. Photo finish. The Hammer won, but by a hair. Okay, now we're going to check the efficiency with our motors on these kayaks. We're both going to travel at 50% throttle on our NK300s, and we're going to keep track of our graph and see how fast we're going. Okay, we're ready to take off. Ready?
Let's do it.
Set, go. I am at 50% on the nose. 50%, and I'm going 5.3. 5.3.
4.8.
4.8 on the Titan X. 5.3 on the Hammer.
About 440, 450 watts. Almost 5 miles an hour.
All right, and just to compare, here's Kegan in the Titan X. He's got about a 1/4 inch, I would say, maybe 3/8 of an inch between the top of the waterline and the hull. Look at the higher deck and water level in the Hammer. I've got about 1.5 inches down from the deck. Sweet. Okay, for our last test of the day, we're going to take a look at stability. Didn't really make sense to have 2 different anglers and 2 different kayaks testing stability, so I've put Kegan in the Hammer. He's used to the Titan X, so he's going to give the Hammer a shot and see how stable it feels to him. Give it a try, Kegan.
All right, well, let's go ahead and stand up. On initial stand-up, it feels very similar to the Titan, although leaning just a little bit left and just a little bit right. I can feel that primary stability is not as strong. As you can see, I can put just about all my weight on this left side, and the gunnels are still significantly out of the water. So, you know, altogether, to me, this feels very similar to what I know in one of the other kayaks I've owned is the Slayer Max 10. So this feels very similar in stability.
Turn around.
Get into here.
Yeah, give it a try sitting down.
Okay.
And how's the stability feel for that?
It feels great, actually. The one thing, like I said earlier, is there's just a little bit of roll. But this actually allows me to get into the turns a little better.
Yeah, that's what I noticed when we did the turning competition, is I could really lean into the turn and get a tight turn.
One of the things that I would say is that with the Titan X, I don't feel like I could flip it without being thrown out first. This one, I think I might be able to roll the kayak without being thrown out first.
Yeah, if it was nicer weather, we would give it a shot. This water's about 49 degrees, so we don't really want to take a swim. But yeah, come summer, that'd be a good thing to try. It may not. I mean, that secondary is kicking in. It may just lock there, and the same thing, you would fall out, and you'd fall out pretty easy.
Yeah. I mean, I'm going about as far as I am comfortable doing without going in the water. But I think it's great stability.
Just depends on your comfort level with stability, what you're looking for. If you're looking for that super stability, Titan X is the way to go. But if you don't mind that, you're getting better performance. It's turning better. It's a little faster. All right, now Kegan's in the Titan, and he's going to give that a shot. Let's see how stable that Titan is.
All right, standing up. That was very simple. And primary stability on this is just solid as a rock.
Yeah, you know, it's interesting. I can really see it from here. The gunnel was almost touching the water, the top of the gunnel in the hammer, but
I mean, I can give her a good lean, but any more than that, I'm jumping in the water. I really don't want to do that.
Yeah, that really shows the difference in the stability. And how about sitting?
All right. Do note this has a bit of a higher chair, so I'll just sit down. It's a little bit easier. It's got a little higher seat, so that's one of the things with a little bit lower of a floor. You got more room to get your feet underneath you.
And stability?
Stability? Oh.
You can't even move it.
I mean,
it's barely moving, even when you lean hard.
I was leaning way harder on here than I was on the hammer. And
I can see it. I can see from here how much harder you're leaning, and it's not moving.
Yeah, I feel like I'd have to grab onto one side to make this roll over and pull it with me.
There you go. Stability, the Titan X wins.
Yes.
Before we get started, I'd like to shout out Brandon Hua Fishing. He came out and helped us shoot these on the water videos. Another big shout out to Shane Benedict, the designer of the hammer and the Titan X and the LTE, who I was lucky enough to work with on the design of all three kayaks. And a shout out to Hans Newts, who designed the X-Range Drive, the new X-Range Drive. So kudos to those guys for doing an excellent job. 2 weeks ago, we got out on the water and tested the brand new hammer and the Titan 12.5 to compare the differences, see which one was better at certain things, and figure out which one applies to which angler. One of the challenges that I have run into talking to people online about these different models of kayaks and what they think is best for them is, and I got to give a shout out to Greg Blanchard on this, because he just did a video on the hammer when he went and picked his up, and he said the hammer is not the Titan X 2.0. And I think that sums it up perfectly. That's the perfect way of putting it. It's not a replacement for the Titan X. It's not meant as a Titan X with improvements. It's a different beast. It handles differently. It's got different stability. It's got different features.
Yeah, they are different kayaks. They're not the same kayak. They're not an improvement upon one or the other. They're meant for different things, right? The holes are not the same. The stability is not the same. There's a trade-off, right?
Let's talk about the differences in the two kayaks and what's going to appeal to what type of angler. For me, I can speak to myself. I like the idea of a kayak that's a little lighter, a little more nimble on the water, something that's going to turn well and has pretty good speed. I had the Titan X for a couple of years, and I really enjoyed it, but my favorite kayak, honestly, to date, was the Slayer Max 12.5. The hammer is actually an extension of the Max 12.5. That's where we started. That's what we designed it based on. And that was always my favorite, but that's my style. I know there are a lot of other people out there who like a big, super wide, super stable, heavy kayak.
I definitely understand. You know, I guess my style of angling is kind of based on the growth, the change of kayaks that I've had over the years. You know, I started with a Titan 13.5. It was a great kayak, but I found that there were things that didn't fit my fishing style. And as I progressed, I went to the Titan 12, and then I went on to the Slayer Max 10, and now I have the Titan X 12.5. One of my favorite kayaks that I found at this point is the Slayer Max 10. It's definitely not the longest, definitely not the widest, but there's a niche in my fishing that it really fit. You know, I'm really excited about the new X-Range drive that's in the Hammer. For me, one of the things that I've always had some frustrations with in the past is the drive indexing, but I'm so excited with the new little pinky grip. It feels like it's going to be so much easier to one hand lift and shift, and then you can just jet across the water. So that's a really cool feature I'm excited about.
Yeah, that drive, it's really smart. That was one thing we talked about initially, is like we knew we were going to have to redesign the drive to get the floor higher. That was the only way to do it. We couldn't make the floor any higher with the old Propel drive. Shane said to us, you know, what can we change that would be better? I suggested folding it for sure, and after talking to people more about it, I understand they already had been looking at that idea, and they had some samples of other people who had done things like that maybe weren't great. So they wanted to improve upon that. And then that's when Hans got involved. Shane got Hans working on it to redesign that drive. One thing I love about it, it's no small thing, is that pin holding the drive in place.
Yeah.
So you leave the thwart bar installed in the kayak all the time. You really never have to take it out. And you just pull that pin and pop the drive off for when you're transporting it to and from the lake. Or if you're using your motor and you don't plan to use the drive, but you want to have it as backup in case your battery dies or something, you can put it in the back on that flat battery bay behind the seat, strap it down back there. It's out of your way, but it's there.
Yeah.
If you ever run into trouble, just stop, turn around, unstrap it, pop it in, and go.
Yep. No paddling a relatively large kayak back to the dock 4 miles.
I mean, you could do it.
Yeah.
You could do it. I went out the day after we shot this and did some paddling on the Hammer, and I was really impressed with how well it paddled. And I've got another video coming out soon that'll show that. But I'm with you. If I've motored 3-4 miles from the launch, I don't necessarily want to paddle 3-4 miles back. I could do it, and it'd be okay. It'd be better than the Titan X.
Oh man, yeah. I mean, for me, that's kind of like my kayak journey. I was like, I want what at that point in time Greg was using was the 13.5 Titan, years ago. I'm like, I want that. I got it, and I go, maybe this isn't the right kayak for me.
You had to pick it up.
So yeah, it just took time. Each of the kayaks, if you gave me the Slayer Max 10, I'd have been like, no, not a chance. That's not the kayak for me. Now that I've been in it for a year, fished from it for a year, I still have it. I love that kayak.
That's great.
So
it's great. That and the LTE, I love them. And I loved my Titan X when I had it. And if it ever was windy when I was out there in the Titan X, I was like, this is nice.
Yeah.
Because it didn't move.
We were on the Umatilla last year.
Yeah.
And it's some of the nastiest conditions I've ever fished in. I was so thankful I had my Titan X. In the video that we're doing now, you can see the stability. And that, to me, was a defining difference. A very defining difference between the two kayaks.
Yeah.
And
maybe the most important when people are choosing, because you and I both see people online talking about what kayak to get all the time, and their first question is, which is more stable? What's the most stable? I get people that ask, what's the most stable kayak I can get? Well, probably a floating barge.
Yes.
Can it move on the water? Can it turn? Can it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Does it fit your angling style?
That's a great point that I've noticed just in the little time I've had on the Hammer. One thing, when I had the Titan X 12.5, you know me, I like to fish skinny water. I like to get in backwater sloughs. I like to get in weedy places that are shallow. And the Titan X 12.5 wasn't the best kayak for that. My LTE is great for that. I can paddle it right up in the pads or the weeds and just kind of park it on the weeds, lift my drive up and use the paddle. And I've done that with the Titan X 12.5, but it's a bear. It's a bear to move it through weeds.
Yes. It's not a kayak that I enjoy paddling around. It's a lot of work.
Yeah.
And
that goes back to that trade-off that you mentioned earlier. And Greg talked about trade-off a lot in his video. And that's really, I think, what it comes down to. You give up one feature or one performance issue for another. You can have a big, super wide kayak that's got kind of a flat hull, and it's going to be very stable. The primary stability is going to be great on it, and the secondary, of course, is going to be great too. But don't expect it to turn. Don't expect it to move fast in the water. And the Hammer goes after the approach of a more curved hull that slips through the water, turns really easily, and has better speed. You said it when you did the stability test, and it was very interesting for me standing on the dock watching you shooting it. Not only is it the way the kayak feels, but I could see it. Like I could see it clear as day when you were standing on the Hammer and you'd lean over and the gunnels would go down and go near the waterline.
Mm-hmm.
And then when you were in the Titan X, you'd lean over and it didn't really even move. It moved a little, but not much.
Yeah.
So I think that little piece of the video shows more than anything how different the stability is on those two kayaks. You said it well. I think when you're choosing a kayak, you got to decide what performance features are important to you and choose the kayak that fits you best. As I always say to people, the only way you really are going to know that is demo, demo, demo.
Yes.
Get out on the water and try the kayaks, all the kayaks you're considering getting, and see how they feel on the water. And look and see how it feels to sit in the cockpit. Yeah. Does it have everything that you need close by? I see people that are trying to choose the best features online, looking at websites and trying to decide what's best and asking other people's opinions. Well,
they're based on what they want.
Sometimes based on what they already have, pride of ownership,
yeah.
And this is the best kayak ever, which is great. I'm happy that they're happy.
Yes.
But it's not real useful when you're trying to choose what to get. You gotta try it.
Yeah.
One thing I noticed on the Hammer when I was out there that we didn't really go over in the video is it is a smaller cockpit. It's a little more narrow where your feet and everything are. I was using the Wizard FCS foot steering, and on my Titan X, I had the Wizard also, and I could leave the propel drive in the water, motor, and use those foot pegs on the Wizard FCS, and I had a pretty good amount of clearance between the pedals and the pegs. The pedals would spin if it was down, and they'd be out of the way. I could still control the boat. If you're considering getting the Hammer and you are using foot-controlled steering, you might want to think about that because it is a little bit more trouble. What I found I need to do if I'm going to pedal, I take those foot pegs and I bring them all the way back as close to me as I can to get them out of my way. Because if I leave them there, there's not a lot of clearance between the peg and the pedal, and so my feet will bump into, if I'm pedaling, they'll bump into the pegs, and if I'm on the pegs, the pedals will hit. So if I'm motoring, I bring the X-Range drive up and I fold it forward, and if I'm pedaling, I just slide those pegs all the way back out of my way, and then I've got plenty of room to pedal. It doesn't bother me. It's a minor thing for me to just move the pedals out of the way. My style is to run and gun. I run somewhere with my motor, and then when I get to where I want, I stop it, I pull the motor up, I slide the pegs back, and then I use the pedal drive.
Yeah, for maneuvering and fishing. Yeah, I'm very much the same way. So it wouldn't be that big of a deal for me either, or any angler that has that style.
Yeah, and if I am fishing with the motor, which I do sometimes if there's wind or current, or I'm pre-fishing and I want to scope something out and keep moving a little bit faster, that's fine. I'll just put the X-Range drive up, fold it forward, it'll be out of my way, and I can just motor and fish from that. So that's convenient.
Speaking of speed, let's talk about some of the tests
Okay.
that we did on the water. Of course, everybody wants to know, like, what's the top speed? What's the fastest it'll go? And I briefly got up to 6.8 on the Hammer when we were doing our tests with the NK300. We both had the NK300 on our kayaks, and I briefly got up to 6.8, but consistently it was going about 6.5, which is pretty good. That's a little better than the Titan X, a little faster than the Titan X, but not a huge difference.
No, no.
And that's the thing. The hull determines how fast these kayaks are going to go.
Yeah.
And kayaks can only go so fast because they don't get up on plane like a boat. So you can put more power on it, but basically you're just pushing a log through the water at that point.
Yeah.
It's not, you're not getting better performance.
Yeah.
So I think what we noticed was about a half a mile per hour difference in top speed.
Yeah.
And you know, if you need that little bit, if you're a tournament angler and you need that little bit extra to get there first, it's going to give you that.
Yeah.
But what was eye-opening for me about speed was when we did the efficiency test. When we put the throttle at 50% and just motored down the lake to see which one was going faster. Again, I was probably about a half a mile an hour faster than you with the Hammer. But in just the short distance we went, I was already a full length ahead of you. And if we were going a mile or 2 miles, I'd be way ahead of you.
Yeah.
And so that gives you the ability to get somewhere without using a ton of your battery power and know that you're going to get there efficiently and pretty fast. I think for most people, you could consider 50% probably your max throttle that you really need, and you're going to go plenty fast enough. You're well over 5 miles an hour.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. I mean, that's what I saw too. Even with the motor on the Titan X, I saw that at about 60% throttle, I started to get diminishing returns. I'd give it more throttle, but I wouldn't really go that much faster.
Oh yeah, there's definitely a curve to that.
Having that longer battery life with more efficiency means I can run to more spots without having to use the entire battery or be worried about not having anything
Running out.
at the end of the day.
The speed with the motors, I would say, was minor. It was a little better, a little more efficient on the Hammer, a little faster, but minor. The speed with the pedal drive, on the other hand, was kind of impressive, and that's, again, that hull design. The Titan X, from 0 to 1.5 miles an hour, takes a lot of work.
Yeah. Starting the Titan X from a start in using the pedals really reminded me of the Titan 13.5.
Sure.
And it just requires so much initial effort to get moving. I remember getting into yours to start doing the stability tests, and I pedaled it around a little bit. I was like, holy cow, this is so much easier than what I was just in. It was such a stark difference.
That's it. That efficient hull really makes it easy from 0 to 1.5 miles an hour on the Hammer. You can get up to speed fast. It reminds me a little of the LTE or like the Slayer Max 10, which are also efficient on the water, don't have a lot of drag, don't have a big, heavy hull that's creating drag. So yeah, you can do a couple pedal strokes and you're moving. A couple pedal strokes on the Titan, you nudge it a little, that's about it. It's sort of like driving a Cadillac versus a Ferrari, you know?
Very true.
As far as the deck height, yeah, we did notice that. You saw that in the video, that there was a good inch plus difference. And that tracks to when we were designing it, and the question was posed, like, how much higher do we need to go? And we said a solid inch for sure, maybe more. And I think it is. I think it's a good 1.25 inch probably difference between the Titan X and the Hammer, with everything else kind of being equal. Weight being similar. You and I are similar in weight. You're maybe a little bigger than I am. You're a little taller than I am. We have the same gear pretty much on the kayak. My battery's maybe a little heavier than yours. You know, minor differences, and it was kind of telling how big a difference there was in the deck height. But as you pointed out, that deck height and a little bit lower seat, that makes it a little harder to stand up. Your knees are higher.
Yeah.
When I looked at you sitting in your Tempest seat in the Titan X, your thighs are pretty much level.
Yeah.
You're just sitting level, and so standing up is a breeze. You're not doing a deep squat to stand up. And so I saw you get up, and it was just really easy. In fact, we kind of laughed about it because it was no big deal.
It looks so effortless.
Yeah, and that lower deck height and a higher seat combined means, yeah, it's going to be easier to get up from sitting. The Hammer's a little tougher to stand up, but it's a minor difference. One thing that was interesting watching the footage that we shot is noticing that the hatch on the Hammer is really just as big as the hatch on the Titan X. And at first glance, you're like, well, how can that be? It's not as wide a kayak, but the difference is those internal rod holders that are on the Titan X. That limits how wide the hatch is on the Titan X, and on the Hammer, it doesn't. It goes all the way out to the hull. It's also interesting how much more volume is in the hatch. When you go into the front hatch and pull the bucket, there's a whole lot more storage space down there below that bucket if you want to store boots, a cart. Some of the carts that break down, you could get down in there. Oh, one question that when we announced the Hammer at ICAST that people were asking about, because these days people love to do dual graphs. They'll do a forward-facing graph and they'll do a traditional sonar down imaging graph. And so when people got the Titan X, they started putting up the captain's bridge with dual graphs up there, which works great. It doesn't work so great with the X-Range drive because it's folding forward. The bridge will be in your way. If you want to fold the drive forward, you won't be able to. Now, if you want to use the propel drive, the X-Range propel drive, the same way that you did previously, then that works fine. You can still lift the drive up out of the drive scupper and rest it right there. You just won't be able to fold it forward with the captain's bridge there. The alternative is there are still those two tracks on the sides of the drive, those short tracks that run. You can put a graph on each of those tracks, just no captain's
without
bridge.
the bridge.
So if you've got a podium mount for your graphs, you can put two graphs up there and just split them. But a single graph is probably a little more advisable on the Hammer, or just really splitting them up. Yeah, I think that really sums it up. The niche of this kayak is somebody that is willing to trade off some stability for better performance on the water, speed, turning radius, and honestly, I kind of like being close to the water. I like being able to reach down, rinse my hands off after I catch a fish or touch the water. It's kind of cool. And, it's tough to do that in the Titan X. It's a stretch down there.
Definitely not easy.
When I was at ICAST and we were introducing the Hammer, Chad Hoover came over to check it out and asked, do you have to be a hammer to own a hammer? And Tyler was very gracious about it, but I was in the back saying, yes.
Well, then why do you have one? Maybe you're aspiring to be a hammer. That's what it is.
Aspiring, indeed.